Good evening, friends. Nice to see you, Marie and Nicole and Martha. So tonight we have lesson four, which I'm sure you saw in my email, which is on the importance of right attitude. And this is a very powerful lesson. Every lesson we feel like this is the one. When Swami Kriyananda would write a book, he would always say, "This is going to be a bestseller." And inevitably, not every book was a New York Times bestseller, but Swami put his entire self, his spirit into everything that he did. And I felt that especially when he was writing the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, Revelations of Christ, this material success course. Towards the end of his life, it seemed like this effortless flow of divine, talk about the divine light manifesting in everything that he undertook in life. It was like that. But this lesson in particular is very important uh, because Swami is helping us clarify what true success is and how we cultivate it inwardly, and then how we realize it in our daily life. So, because this is nice that we have our small group here, and please feel free, Martha, Marie, Nicole, if you have any inspirations or questions, anything that comes up, type it in the chat box, unmute yourself, and please share. So, one of the first things, if you have the book, that stood out to me is this first story Swami told of this man, this couple, and they struck gold. And I won't go into the whole story, you can read it, but they lost it that night. This is a true story. It was a remarkable story. And and then the man said, "Well, it's okay, dear, I'll go and we'll find more today." And lo and behold, he struck gold a second day in a row, and it was an even larger pay dirt, if you will. But the lessons that Swami was highlighting for us, you know, a one is any karma. This is on page 53. Two morals, especially, can be drawn from this amazing account. The first is the glimpse it gives into the workings of karma. When any karma is powerful enough, it can overcome seemingly insuperable odds. Indeed, how extraordinary to find enough gold to make them both rich for life, to lose all of it that very day, and then immediately to find another source of even greater wealth. Then he goes on at the bottom of 53. The second moral in that episode teaches an even more important lesson, namely the importance of exerting one's will when faced with adversity, no matter how appalling. Sometimes we seem to be confronted by an implacable seeming fate. If we meet it indomitably, however, even the harshest karma can be defeated, and any lingering good karma that is still present can be reaffirmed. So I thought this was, a powerful story here that Swami's highlighting for us, the importance of our willpower to exert it in the face of adversity. Uh, I think we've talked about that song of Swamiji's, "Dare to be different." Be strong in your courage when others despair. There is a lot of, we could go into everything that's happening in the world and get caught up in the despair. But it's dependent upon our attitude, right? And how we pick it up. Maybe you've heard that story of there were these two salespeople that were sent to some village in Africa where no one wore sneakers, and the first salesman wired back to the home office, "No one here wears shoes, send me back home." And the second salesman said, "No one here is wearing shoes. Huge opportunity. Send our entire inventory." It's a funny story, but it highlights an important truth for us with right attitude. And this is something Swami says in the lesson, um, page 55, if you have the book, middle of page 55 on the left-hand column. "My own experience in life has convinced me that right attitude is actually even more important than good karma. For although good karma can ensure success, no one, generally speaking, can say whether, when, or for how long that good karma will last before it crashes again, washing up onto the beach, a spent wave. True success produces a well-rounded human being. If one reaps a monetary windfall, but retains or even becomes deep set in a basically dour attitude, one might consider him still a failure in life." I thought this was such a powerful little highlight here that Swami's giving us, that for us to understand that our attitude is even more important than our karma. In fact, our attitude is the cause of our karma. Let's remember that how God, how Spirit created this universe, right? The pure consciousness of God, that first movement, like uh, the Bible says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, the Word was God, that movement, like a gentle flutter of leaves in a tree. That first movement or vibration was from pure consciousness to thought, to divine thought. And then that condensation from thought to energy, and then condensation from energy into matter. Matter is only a manifestation of divine energy. That's what we share in the Festival of Light every week. So our attitude, of course, will have an impact on the energy, the way that we feel, and it will also have an impact on the way that we act. So this is why Swami is helping us to understand the importance of right attitude. In fact, Yogananda said that one of the most important qualities for us to cultivate on the spiritual path is spontaneous willingness. I love that just phrase. And what did he mean by that? You know how in his classes, how feels everyone? And he would ask people to say, awake and ready. How is everyone? Awake and ready. The superconscious living exercises, I think we've done them, maybe not in this series, but you may have learned them in others. I am awake and ready, walking in place. I am positive, energetic, enthusiastic. I am master of my body. I am master of myself. Awake, rejoice, my body cells, and then wrapping the head. Be glad, my brain, be wise and strong. Awake, my sleeping children, wake. Willingness is a key quality for us in our spiritual and material success, because that is priming the pump of our right attitude. If our spontaneous reaction is, "Oh my God," we we just need to train ourselves to say yes to life. Nayaswami Parvati wrote her whole book. That was the title of the book, Say Yes to Life. Uh, Spiritual adventure and discipleship and the pioneering building of Ananda. I think it was a beautiful title, but what I realized in talking to Parvati about her book is that it was an experiment in divine joy. Her being a part of the pioneering and the building of Ananda, it was like a laboratory, a living laboratory. And that's the opportunity that we have with our attitude. So one important attitude is saying yes to life, being positive, right? This isn't having rose-colored glasses on. Like Yogananda says in Autobiography of a Yogi, that the masters are acutely aware of the complexities of modern life, right? Think of what's going on with AI and everything, on and on. We could talk about it, but that um, on one hand, that can feel overwhelming, right? Oh my God, the computers are going to take over, and we're dead, we're gonzo. Um, well, whatever. Maybe that happens, but it doesn't change what is our responsibility, which is ourselves, right? And cultivating it within. But it's like a tool. It's just like we're using the internet to connect. It's just another tool. So how can we use that tool? How can we see it rather as a manifestation of divine energy of Dwapara Yuga? Just like Yogananda, when he was talking, or there was this one audio talk you may have heard. He said, I'm explaining to you, this is Paramahansa Yogananda speaking to you from the wire. He wasn't in the room with them. He was up in his upstairs bedroom, I believe, at Mount Washington. And he said, I always wanted to see how the work would carry on with my physical absence. Just as we are connected through this wire, so God is connected and everyone is connected through all space, through the ether. And he was touching on one of these qualities of Dwapara Yuga, that it's destroying the delusion of space. Right here we are connecting. I'm in California. Maria is in Florida. Nicole is in the Bay Area. Martha's in Grass Valley, I think. And Lori, I don't know where Lori, I forget where Lori's at, but it doesn't, you understand my point, that we were connecting from all over. And I was in Portland recently, and it was so inspiring. You can travel anywhere virtually in the world and connect with other devotees, with other guru bhais, right? Disciples on this path of self-realization, truth seekers. And it was so inspiring for me. And this is one of the other keys that Swami says for us to cultivate right attitude. And he says for us to hold and keep right company, good company, satsanga. We've heard that environment is stronger than willpower, but what does that mean for you? To share with me, if you will, what does it mean for you? How have you integrated environment is stronger than willpower? I know one way is you're here. We're having satsang tonight. We're consciously coming together, and I always feel inspired when we take time to focus like this as a group on these teachings, because it's just like a magnifying glass. You know, you probably did that experiment as a child where you can take the sunlight and you can focus the light and you can create fire. This is a perfect illustration of what happens in our yoga practice, right? We're calmly focusing the energy at the point between the eyebrows. This is, if you read the application for this lesson, this is actually what Swami gives. You know, he said the key to success is this upward flowing energy in the spine, right? And he said this is why it's always important to sit upright, to keep the spine straight, to move the energy upward in the spine. And of course, the yoga practice helps us do that. But this application that he gave in this lesson, he said, if you ever feel your energy is going down and it's being pulled negatively, which we all have that battle, of course. But he said to very simply, just start breathing deeply. So do this with me right now. Just start to breathe diaphragmatically as you inhale. Feel the belly expanding. And then start to feel, as you continue to breathe deeply, Feel that you're magnetizing the heart because you're using the lungs. The air is filling the diaphragm and the belly, but then it's also filling your lungs. Now, take a moment. You can let go of the deep breathing, but just for a few moments, let's focus together forcibly, not with strain, but with divine concentration at the point between the eyebrows. So we're bringing all this energy from the heart magnet now up to the spiritual eye. You can take more time to practice this at home. Swami actually gave an example of in his own life when he fell into that mood where he felt that Master didn't care about him. He went up to bring this big bottle of water and he made a lot of noise so that Master would hear him, and he didn't say anything. And Swami said, oh, he fell into this he doesn't care about me kind of mood. And then he realized it and he said, well, do we like this, boys? He was talking to himself. No. Well, what are we going to do about it? And he said he focused at the Christ Center, at the spiritual eye, for 5 minutes, and he, with deep concentration, and his mood completely shifted. And then he realized, of course, Master cares about me. But he doesn't have time to talk to each person individually that way. But his love is always there. So remember that truth from the autobiographies. Thoughts are universally, not individually rooted. They depend on the level of consciousness on which we are living. That's why when we feel like we're getting drawn down, whether it be into a melancholic whirlpool, a reaction of frustration, and whatever it is, it doesn't matter, that we can just realize, okay, my energy is getting pulled down. How can I raise the level of energy in my spine? This technique of just of deep breathing, bringing the energy to the heart and then focusing at the point between the eyebrows is very simple and very effective. Any thoughts, any comments on anything that you read or from any of the lessons? Oh, Lori, I saw what you said. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were in Portland. I'm sorry to have missed you. Oh, and you're in New Zealand. That's awesome. Enjoy. Swami goes on to say, Marie, were you going to share something? I'm sorry. You feel free to.
I was thinking about it. I was greatly encouraged to find out that Kriyananda and Yogananda struggled with the same things that we do. And the stories were really encouraging to me. We do have those tools and techniques to lift us up, but when we find that it's just one of those things when we're in this earthly realm and we're contending with the same things in the world, that we all go back to the same point. We all go back to the Christ Center. We go back to the masters to guide us back and exercise those things. In regard to what you were saying before, I think it's really important for us to somewhat find friendships or relationships that are equally yoked to us. And I like to spend time with, this is why I do a lot of the classes with you guys, because it's rare out here, as you know, and we're working on that with Sagar and Chandra and them. But it's just great, even with that wire that we're talking about, like tonight, or with these Zoom classes, that we connect our hearts and our minds with those that are like-minded and equally yoked with us in our heart. And I think that's one way that it's applicable, that we stay in what you might term as fellowship or in kindred circles, but not exclude other people from that. But it's important for me to be around other people or connect with other people to keep my energy up. an elevated tree. But I don't want to take up all the time.
No, thank you for sharing. Yeah,
That's
I
wonderful.
feel the same way. I'm sure we all do. Yeah, and it's so important for us to, we talk about these things, but we need to think about them and actualize them, how we can put them into practice. So this is one practical way. How can we tune in to our guru, to these teachings, to making them more alive? And one way is just what you were sharing, Marie, that we're having satsang, right? We're coming together, and that there's an attunement in our hearts, there's an attunement in our consciousness. And then oh yeah, Swami went through these same things and he came out the other side, right? Because he always, it's like our Divine Mother is taking us to a breaking point, so to speak. Do you remember there was that story of Swami, and he was out in 29 Palms with Yogananda, and he was with one of his brother monks. It was Norman, who was a big man, and they had been digging, basically the sand, dirt in the desert to make a swimming pool. And really, Swami said it was just Yogananda kind of created this project so they could be with him. And they had these mounds of dirt. And Yogananda said, "Oh, these big mounds of dirt don't look so nice. Why don't you boys grab this big 2x4 and see if you can level it out?" And then so they did, and it was pretty difficult work. And Yogananda said, "I thought that would work. Let's try it again on this next one." And oh, good, another. Let's try another. And then okay, good, another. And they did it 5 or 6 times, however. And then finally, like on the sixth, Norman, who was this big, burly, strong man, was panting, and Swami was as well. And finally, I think maybe on the seventh pile of dirt, he said, "Okay, that's enough. I was just playing with you. Now go and have your lunch." But they got to that breaking point, and Swami, they laughed together. And that, again, that's one of the keys that Swami gives us in here for right attitude, is having a sense of humor. And because we don't want to take, yes, of course, we want to take the path of self-realization and our freedom very seriously, but we don't want to become overly serious and self-important. Remember, he's saying there's two types of energy, right? There's a centripetal and centrifugal. One, centripetal is contractive upon ourselves versus centrifugal, that's expansive. So how can we move through life with an expansive attitude? Let me ask you that question. What works for you? One simple way, think about that. One simple way is Sister Gyanamata, who would always give sage counsel. She would say, well, just ask yourself when you move through life and things come up, ask yourself, how can I help? How can I be? It's so simple, right? It's just, well, how can I help in this situation? How can I be of service? Remember, there was a woman in the lessons here. It was in one of the workbook ideas, which we really haven't had the time to talk about, but I encourage you to. That's the way. There's points to remember at the end of each lesson, and then Joseph Bharat created these workbook ideas for each lesson, so you can go. These are ways you can make the lesson actionable. One, I forget if it was the first lesson or the second. Bharat tells this story of this woman who had this experience with Yogananda. It was an inner experience in meditation, and she felt that he came to her and said, "Give." It was just one word, and she took it into herself that was like became her mantra and her life, her way of living, that she would just, whatever situation she would be in, she would give. She would just find out how she could be supportive, how she could help, how she could serve. And if we can shift our attitude, right? Like that, I forget the story. I think it was in the New Path where Yogananda was cooking and no, excuse me, I'm sharing the wrong story. There was a woman he's told, you mustn't work so hard. And she was a very hard worker and she was overworking. And so Yogananda told her, you mustn't work so hard. And then the next day, he gave her something else to do. And she's thinking, well, Master's telling me not to work so hard, but he's giving me this. So she did that. And then the next day said, you got this other project, you've got to do that. And then she was feeling more and more overwhelmed. They kept piling more and more tasks for her to do. And then finally one day she came to him and she said, Master, rather than thinking of it as work, why don't we think of it as service? And I'm just changing my attitude to think of everything as an opportunity to be of service. And he said, very good. He said, do you see how you were tiring yourself out with that thought of work, work, work? Isn't it true? It's like things get heavy when we think we've got to work. We're doing the work ourselves. When we realize if it's God who is acting through us and it's an opportunity for us to be of service, to help out in whatever way. It just, when we change our attitude, it changes our entire paradigm. And so that's why this lesson is so important for us. This was what we were talking about here. I'm at the bottom of 55. Above all, true success means self-mastery. What can anyone accomplish more than that? Complete mastery awaits you within yourself. Money, fame, worldly power, and other outward achievements are evanescent. They bring no lasting satisfaction. Whatever you do, think above all in terms of what success will make of you, both as a human being and as an instrument of higher truth. I thought that was so powerful that above all, true success means self-mastery. I love that Swami has an affirmation. You probably all have that book, but maybe not. Affirmations for self-healing. And he has an affirmation on self-control. I am strong in myself. I am complete in myself. The joy and perfection of the universe await discovery within my inner being. And isn't that beautiful? That's why Yogananda gave it the name self, capital S, self-realization, that we're going to find all the answers, everything that we want within ourselves. And of course, that's why meditation and the yoga science is so helpful, because it gives us a way to raise the energy in the spine, to magnetize the higher chakras, to live. What does that chant, desire my great enemy, say? Oh, desire my great enemy has given me lots of trouble, O my Lord. That enemy I will deceive, remaining in the castle of peace, night and day, in thy joy, O my Lord. Isn't that beautiful? You won't have to fear anything anymore. That's one of the lines. That's such a liberating thought, to fearless living. And I may have mentioned this last week or the other week that I'm reading the diary, the notebooks of Saint Faustina. She was a great Catholic Christian saint in the 1930s from Poland. And what strikes me about her is just the unconditional faith. and love of God that she had. It didn't, she had this experience where she she felt herself as like a drop in the ocean of God. And she was, it's like Yogananda's chant, I am the bubble, make me the sea. She was describing just this feeling of just being like nothing in a great ocean of God's love, not in a self, I am nothing. Have you heard that joke? Um, there's the rabbi, he's with his assistant at the temple, and the rabbi throws himself down before the altar. I am nothing, I am nothing. And then the assistant was, imitating him. So the assistant throws himself down. I am nothing. I am nothing. And then the janitor who's in the back, he witnessed this scene. So he comes and he throws himself down before the altar. I am nothing. I am nothing. And the rabbi, to his assistant, he sort of elbowed his assistant and said, look who thinks he's nothing. So it's like Swami said that we can become proud of our humility. So with Saint Faustina, my point is she was truly humble in saying that she felt like she was nothing, because she was emphasizing the grandeur of God, the infinite love of God. And when she embraced things that were challenging with the right attitude, everything changed. Like she couldn't pick up, they had these big pots of potatoes they would make, like a cauldron for the nuns, and she was afraid because she was weak and she couldn't pick it up. And Christ came to her before and said, I will give you the strength, just make the effort. And so she did. And then when she looked back in the pot, it was filled with roses. So when we have to put out the effort, of course. It's our self effort which draws divine grace. Uh, Swami has a song, I may have mentioned it, it's so beautiful, The Hill That Was Tara. But the last line, it always strikes a chord with my heart. I'm going to attempt to sing it properly. Every effort we spend gives more strength in the end, until our gladness in life's ever new. It's so beautiful. Every effort we spend gives more strength in the end, until our gladness in life is ever new. We need to combat this thought that it it's an indifference. What does it matter, right? Apathy. Everyone will face discouragement. Every effort, no effort is wasted. Every effort that we make to realize God, to manifest spiritual magnetism and spiritual success in our daily life, we grow. We're the ones that are blessed by being an instrument for those divine attitudes. And we must combat this negative tendency, right? It's the naysaying spirit. Krishna says, I've revealed this wisdom sublime to you who have overcome the carping spirit. So we're getting close to closing. I would love for any Nicole, Lori, I know you're traveling, so if you can't share, it's all good. Anything anyone else wants to share from this lesson, or anything that's come up? Oh, Nicole, I love your background.
Thank you. Yeah. I'll have to say all of this is just so timely. And with everything going on right now, it's like the importance of of the satsang to keep our right attitude strong at all
Yeah.
times. Because
Yeah.
we just have a lot more coming at us,
Yeah.
directly or indirectly.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really important. I mean, we're in crazy times,
Mhm.
and it's important for us to remember. Thank you, Nicole, for saying that. Like, I think we talked about this, and maybe it was lesson one, two, whatever.
Mhm.
The Swami is like, he's striking that chord just because it's who he was. That the yogi's attitude, the yogi is a cause, not an effect. And I can feel when I'm consuming more news and I'm looking at things, I'm like, whoa, and you can slip into like doom scrolling, like this is oh God, like that it just keeps getting worse and worse. It seems like we need to reverse that. And
Mhm.
I've been this week before looking at my phone, I I practice this what I call the cell phone Yama Sutra, which is they unearthed this old sutra and it said, you use your cell phone, it does not use you.
Mhm.
When we find that we're falling into that um, fear, anxiety, anger, that I think we need to remember that's actually what the news feeds on,
Mhm.
right? There's an actual saying in media, if it bleeds, it leads. I mean, they want it to be sensational, so it will catch you and it'll get you into that. So you keep clicking more. So what's the answer? Well, we need to be we need to be the positive. We chose to incarnate at this transformational time so that we can bring the divine attitude of God's love, peace, blessings into this world. And how are we going to do that if we don't first connect with it? That's why starting our day, right, with
Mhm.
our sadhana and then trying to hold on to it and build a bridge into activity is so important. And for me, I think I've shared Dharma Devi and I have a hobby farm here. We have a cow and some goats and chickens. And it's been really refreshing for me uh, because it's very simple, and the animals are just they're in the moment. There's no like, and just how you are treating them is what you get back. If you're frustrated and angry and irritated, you're gonna feel that. And if you're giving love, I think I told this story, maybe I didn't. I'll forgive me for repeating myself if I have, but this one night I was putting the animals away because we have a little tough shed they go in because the mountain lions would get them. And I had the goats in, I had the cow in, and the chickens weren't yet in the barn. And I was like, these darn chickens, I'm going to have to go wrangle these chickens, get the chickens in the barn. And I felt myself getting irritated. And I was like, why am I getting frustrated about the chickens? What can I do? And I was there with Niyani as our cow, and she loves being brushed. We have like like a metal brush. And I was like, oh, I'm just gonna start brushing Niyani. And so I just started brushing her, and she like makes this sort of like oh she'll start like mooing, cooing, and I'm just like brushing her. I'm like, this is, and I just sort of fell into this brushing reverie with her. And I just brushed her for 5, 10 minutes or so. And I just enjoyed that time. And then I realized all the chickens had come in of their own accord, were up on their roosting bar. And I was like, oh my God, it's a perfect lesson of life. It's like we get frustrated and the things should be other than they are. And Swami goes on, I think, in the essence of the Gita to say that you could actually tie back all pain in life to not accepting things as they are. So when we have which is essentially wrong attitude, right? So it's us learning right attitude, of which there are many. We've talked about willingness, saying yes to life, acceptance, seeing things from a higher perspective, asking how we can help, being expansive of service to life, and having a sense of humor. All these things are important. But ultimately, the answer lies in our being open, right? And being receptive, like the flowers behind you, Nicole, the roses. It's blessed the life open to his love. Because ultimately it's not us. He is doing it through us. It's the most it's like it's the greatest mystery. Although, as Yogananda said, that really the mystery is why more people don't take up the spiritual path. But when you start to meditate and feel and you have the experience of God, you don't have to get out the book. You don't have to get out your pen and paper. That is who you are. That is your nature. Divine love, divine joy. So let's close. Do we have any final thoughts? I wanted to play Swami's meditation for us to close with.
I'll just say my news mantra is no news 9 to 9.
No news 9 to 9. I like
so
that.
I kind of started in my day the right way.
Excellent. Okay, great souls. Let me get Swami lined up here. I'm going to share the audio, and I invite you to close your eyes and take this as a meditation. Share my sound. And just give me a thumbs up that you can hear it, please. Should start in a moment.
Meditation. Visualize a ray of sunlight slanting down through a cloud-covered sky and shining on you, illuminating your consciousness. Think of the happiness of receiving that blessing from infinite light. Rise mentally on that shaft of light. Soar in divine aspiration to become one with the source of light of which you are a part. Feel the light penetrate your being. Release your ego to merge into it. No lingering corner of darkness, of fear, or doubt exists anywhere. You are the infinite light itself.
And let's share this infinite light of spirit with the whole world who is in desperate need of God's light, peace, and harmony. Let's send out 3 healing Om vibrations. Om. 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 Peace. Amen. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Martha. Lori had to drop off, and so did Martha. But it's great to get to share with you guys in this way. And I'll keep posting the lessons too. They're going out on the YouTube channel. And we'll be back in a couple weeks for lesson 5.
Beautiful. Thank you, Narayan.
Okay. Bye, friends.
Bye.